What's going on, everybody? Welcome into episode 78 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast on this Tuesday, May 27, 2025. I'm your host, Zach Malamud. Hope everyone had a nice long weekend. Before we get started, please subscribe below. Follow all of my social accounts. Let's start things off in the NBA as the New York Knicks are in action tonight. An 8 o'clock start in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers. And let's recap the last 3 games since the last time we spoke on Tuesday a week ago. You look at Game 1 on Wednesday of last week, and the Knicks had this one in the bag. They had a 17-point lead in the fourth quarter. 14 points they led by with just 2:50 to go in this one. Give credit to the Pacers, though. They mounted a monster comeback, and with Aaron Nesmith at the heart of it, hitting 8 of 9 from beyond the arc in this game, they end up forcing overtime and then winning it in overtime. Jalen Brunson's 43 points were not enough in this one, and the Pacers mount a monster comeback and give the Knicks a bit of a taste of their own medicine after those couple of comebacks that they had against the Boston Celtics in the last round. And obviously this one was a heartbreaker for the New York Knicks, and they had to bounce back quickly. They head into Friday's game at MSG, and a lot of people were calling it a must-win almost for the Knicks. You can't go back to Indiana down 2-0. It's just going to be impossible to win this series. And then they go into Game 2 and they lose that one as well. You're not expecting the Knicks to come out strong after a heartbreaker like that one. And then you look at the overall series and you're saying, well, the Knicks really have to win 5 games now in this series after they really won Game 1, but they gave it away at the end. Then you head into Game 2 and you're expecting this strong Indiana Pacers team to control a couple games in this series, and that's what they did. And Pascal Siakam was at the heart of that in Game 2 with a monster performance. And then you look at Game 3 and you're saying, all right, well, back's against the wall now for the New York Knicks. 2-0 back to Indiana. Can they grab a win and build some confidence for this team? They end up grabbing a win and mount another 20-point comeback. They were down by 20 points in this one midway through the second quarter, and they mount a second-half comeback for the ages. Karl Anthony Towns was a beast in this one, 24 points, and the fourth quarter alone was all cat, a 20-point quarter for Karl Anthony Towns down the stretch in a lineup where it was not Jalen Brunson on the floor. There was not really too many of their stars except for Cat. He comes up big with a lot of the guys coming off the bench, and the Knicks end up coming back, stealing a game in Indiana, 106-100. That's a monster win for the New York Knicks. Obviously, you don't want to go down 3-0 on the road. You don't want to go down 3-0 at all in a series. No team has ever come back from a 3-0 deficit in the NBA playoffs. And then you look at tonight's game as they have to win this one as well. I would say when you look at the Knicks overall in this series, they can lose this game, but then they have to win that Game 6 in Indiana, and they have to win a couple of games at home. This team has struggled so far this postseason on their home floor at MSG. You would think with the home crowd behind them, it is absolute bonkers at MSG every time the Knicks play, but they just don't seem like the same team on their home floor. Yes, they got a couple wins in that Boston series in Game 4 and then in Game 6, but before that, I mean, they had lost a bunch of games to Detroit at home, and then they lost Game 2 in that series along with Game 5. It's just not the greatest postseason at MSG right now, and they have to bounce back after that. You would say winning tonight is a good way to do that. Then you go back to 2, and a winner take all in a Game 7 could be a scenario for them. They could also then go on the road in Game 6 and win in Indiana. You wouldn't hope for that, but if it comes down to that scenario, the Knicks have been, a very, very solid team on the road this postseason, and just racking up wins. They had 3 wins. They won all 3 games in Detroit in the opening round. Then you win the couple of games in Boston to start that series. They lose the next one, but then now they win another game on the road in this Indiana series in Game 3. So, yeah, look forward to tonight. And the Knicks have to come out strong. They cannot get blown out in this game. I do think Indiana's going to come in with a lot of noise behind them and just try and close this thing out, try and lock things down. You go up 3-1 heading back to MSG, you're feeling really confident if you are a Pacer fan and a Pacer player, but they have to really control things tonight. This Knicks team is going to put up a lot of fight. I would say from the Knicks' point of view, you got to get Karl-Anthony Towns involved once again, and he needs to step up big time in this game. Jalen Brunson didn't have his greatest game, and the Knicks still managed to win, even though Brunson, in a lot of their losses, has dropped plenty of points so far this postseason, especially in Game 1 and Game 2. He had 43 in Game 1, 36 in Game 2, and then in a bad day, they end up winning the game, the Knicks do. And yes, a lot of different things went into that. And of course, the 20-point comeback definitely helps that. But Jalen Brunson is not the question tonight. Karl-Anthony Towns is the question tonight. The other question is Mikal Bridges, a guy who really, it seems that every time a big moment comes up and the Knicks can't just rely on Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges elevates his game, and he's elevated his game this postseason in those tough moments. They need a big performance by Mikal Bridges tonight. If his shots are falling, the Knicks are going to be in a good spot, and Karl-Anthony Towns right next to him. That should be huge for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson going to get his points, but the rest of them and his supporting cast really need to step up in this Game 4, and they could go back to the Garden, now all even at 2-2. It's going to be a monster game, and the Knicks defensively, once again, have to be strong. They held the Pacers to 100 points in Game 3. That was a postseason bottom, or near the bottom of the postseason in terms of rankings for the Pacers and how they've played so far this season and this postseason. They need to really control things on the defensive side once again, the Knicks do, and lock down a lot of those guys and a lot of those shooters that the Indiana Pacers have to offer. Nesmith, you got Nembhard, you got Halliburton, of course, leading the way, and even the bigs down low in Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam. So we'll see what happens, but a monster game for the New York Knicks. Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals, 8 o'clock tonight in Indiana. Make sure you tune in to that one later. Let's shift things to baseball as both New York teams were in action this weekend. And let's start things off with the red-hot New York Yankees, who have won 14 of their last 18 in the month of May. They are red-hot right now, and they continue to roll with a nice cushion at the top of the AL East. And you looked at the start of the month, and it was a little bit iffy. They were 1-3 to start the month. And ever since then, the couple of losses to Tampa and then the loss to start the series against San Diego. And you're thinking, oh no, the month of May is going to be a disaster. The Yankees have completely turned it around. And like I said, 14 of their last 18. And you look at the teams that they've gone up against, 2 out of 3 against San Diego, 2 out of 3 against the Athletics, 2 out of 3 up in Seattle, 2 out of 3 in the Subway Series against the Mets. They sweep the Rangers in 3 games at Yankee Stadium. They take 2 out of 3 from the Rockies, and they already get off to a hot start against the Los Angeles Angels with a 5-1 win yesterday. This Yankees team looks really, really strong. The lineup is dealing right now. You're getting contributions from all over the place in this lineup. When you look at the Yankees from a year ago, very top-heavy, relying on those big stars, Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton. What was happening when those guys weren't having their best day? It was just a loss in the end for the Yankees. But now, even Judge, who's batting just under 400 right now, and yes, he's had a couple of shaky days here and there, the Yankees still find ways to win those games, and they've been really strong. Give credit to this lineup, guys like Cody Bellinger, Paul Goldschmidt, even a guy in Anthony Volpe, who a lot of people were giving him heat in the last couple of weeks or so. He's really struggled when it comes to batting-wise. He's just not getting a clutch hit, and the clutch moments, he's been in countless amounts of them, and he just has not come up strong for the Yankees. How about yesterday? gets a bases clearing double for the Yankees to look at a nice cushion for this team and a nice lead to give Ryan Yarbrough, who dealed once again in Los Angeles, and a guy who came in the Yankees just hoping that he gave them some innings, start after start, and then obviously putting them fully in that starter role. They really like what they're seeing from Yarbrough. He ends up going 5 innings yesterday with just 2 hits allowed. He gave up a leadoff homer, and he was spotless from there. I think really what you're looking at from this Yankees team is a really good pitching staff that's pitching very well. And even when they get into a bit of trouble, this lineup is there to help them out. And obviously you saw that against, a weak Rockies team in the previous game on Sunday, but they end up finding ways to win games. And even when they're down, you can't count this team out, and their lineup really steps up and helps them out. But the pitching staff has been the story. They really have controlled things. There's really not many games that they've allowed their opponent to score 4 or 5 runs. That's just the difference right now for this Yankees team, and they've looked really, really strong in the month of May, looking to continue that as they head into tonight's game, the second game of a 3-game set against the LA Angels. And this one starts at 9:38 tonight. It's going to be Carlos Rodon on the mound, coming off some great starts recently. He's looked very, very solid each and every time he's been on the mound, and he's coming off his last start against Texas where he went 6 innings strong, just 2 hits allowed with 8 strikeouts, ends up getting his 6th win of the year. So relying on Rodon once again to be the great pitcher that he's been this month. And obviously the Yankees on an absolute tear right now, and they're going up against a hot Angels team that started off the year slow but has been really good in the month of May. And it's going to be Rodon taking on Tyler Anderson. The Yankees get a shot at a lefty tonight, and make sure you tune into that one as it takes place at Angel Stadium in Anaheim. It's the Yankees and the Angels, 9:38 this evening. When you look at the other side of New York, the New York Mets were in action yesterday, taking on the Chicago White Sox. And the Mets, it's not been great recently, but then they get that series win over the Los Angeles Dodgers, who came into town for a 3-game set at Citi Field. The Mets end up losing a bad game on Friday where they had plenty of opportunities. The Dodgers did as well, but that one went into 13 innings, and the Dodgers end up capitalizing on it with Huascar Braziban, who came into that game not really ready to pitch in that one. It was really meant for a day off for him, and he comes into the 13th inning and gives up a couple runs. Not a great performance by him, his first blip, you would say, this season, but obviously that was a tough scenario going in with the ghost runner in 13 innings and people just wanting to get out of there, and the Dodgers or the Mets looking to finish that game. Then you look at the next couple of days and give credit to the Mets starters who looked really, really strong. David Peterson threw a gem on Saturday, went 7 2/3 innings, the tied for the longest start of his career. And he ends up holding the Dodgers to just 2 runs in that Saturday game. And then, of course, on Sunday, the Mets go into the rubber match on Sunday Night Baseball. Kodai Senga on the mound, and what does he do? He deals again. Just 1 run allowed. It was right to start the game with Shohei Ohtani hitting a blast into right field, into the outfield and over Juan Soto's head. But Kodai Senga from there, seems like he gets better as the game goes on each and every start, and he holds the Dodgers to just 1 run in that Sunday Night Baseball game, and the Mets end up taking 2 out of 3, maybe a bit of revenge early this season against the team that knocked them out a year ago in the National League Championship Series. So it hasn't been great right now for the New York Mets, and of course all the stories going on about Juan Soto, and he's not stepping up in the big moments with runners in scoring position. He's not good enough right now, and he's looked really bad. He had a great weekend, really. When you look at it, he had a really solid weekend when you look at Saturday's game where he comes up big with the runners in scoring position, ends up getting, with the bases loaded, an opportunity in the fourth, almost cleared the bases. Marte just a little slow, but the Mets, who had tied the game earlier in the fourth inning on Marte's infield single, Soto ends up doubling off the wall and could have had 3 runs come in. It's only 2, but that's a positive sign for Juan Soto, who has struggled so far this season in those big spots where you think he's going to step up big time. It just hasn't been the case for Soto so far this season. So that's a big spot for him, and he comes up clutch there. And then you look at Monday against a White Sox team that, is not great. They're 5-22 now on the road this season, 17-37, the record that they have so far this season. But the Mets, when the pressure was on and Clay Holmes had a good outing, the Mets offense just was sleeping for the first couple of innings of this game. And really it got into the 7th where you're like, what is going on? And maybe even into the 8th where you're saying, how is this team so bad on offense? Adrian Hauser throwing a gem against the New York Mets. And obviously the Mets really respond to that in the later innings. Soto gets a sacrifice fly in a big moment. And then, of course, Francisco Lindor walks it off with another sac fly for the New York Mets, and the second walk-off sac fly for the Mets this season, as they had, of course, Lindor. They had Alonso as well. And, of course, Edwin Diaz comes in for the 9th inning with the game tied at 1 and shuts things down once again with just 11 pitches thrown. And the Mets end up grabbing a win in a game that they did not look strong in. However, again, there are guys at the top of the lineup who have been struggling recently. Soto, Lindor, they end up getting some clutch moments and a clutch sac fly from each of them, and they end up getting the 2-1 win against the White Sox. But then you lead that into tonight, and they have to bounce back strong. And really, I mean, take it to this White Sox team that they should really be taking advantage of. Jonathan Cannon will be on the mound for the White Sox. He's 2-5 this year with a 3.76 ERA, and he's going up against Tyler McGill, who's been really, really weak recently. A lot of consecutive starts where it's just not been good for McGill, and he's looking to bounce back after another loss that he had his last time out. He's 3-4 now on the season with a 3.56 ERA, and that was after he really started off this season strong with his ERA in the ones earlier in this season. It's been anything but for Tyler McGill, and obviously he got the win last time out, or got the no decision last time out, but it started off pretty weak with a lot of walks, and of course against the Yankees he had 5 walks. Then in St. Louis earlier this month he had 3 walks, but then the 10 strikeouts really comes up strong for him in that start against Boston. But 4 2/3 innings is just not enough for this Mets team. They have to have their pitchers go deeper, and that's been a focus for this Mets pitching staff so far this season. So McGill, yes, it looked okay in terms of his start against Boston, but didn't end up getting a decision in the end. And of course, before that, it's been really weak in the last couple of starts in the month of May. So he's looking to bounce back after a couple of rough outings, and he gets a chance at a White Sox lineup that is not really strong so far this season. So make sure you tune in later. 7:10 start at Citi Field. It's the 33-21 Mets, the 17-37 White Sox in Queens. But that will do it for episode 78 of the MudWatch Sports Podcast. Please subscribe below. I've been Zach Malum, and thanks for watching, and talk to you all on Thursday.